Have you ever had someone look at you with that smug smile, convinced they've got you cornered, when in truth, you're holding all the cards? That's exactly what happened the day a so-called HOA Karen told me my cabin wasn't up to code. She thought she was about to ruin me, but she had no idea who she was dealing with. Before I dive in, if you enjoy stories where justice finally catches up with the bullies, make sure to subscribe, you'll never miss the next one. Life at my cabin was supposed to be peaceful. I built it myself years back, on a quiet piece of land tucked against the pines, overlooking the lake. To me, it wasn't just a building, it was my refuge. A place I could fish in the mornings, sip coffee on the porch at sunset, and feel like I still had control over something in this fast-changing world. The irony? Building cabins was my line of work. I'd been a certified inspector for over 2 decades, making sure homes, rentals, and vacation spots across the county were safe and up to standard. When I put up my own cabin, you better believe I followed every single regulation to the letter. But peace never lasts long when an HOA gets involved. At first, I thought the Homeowners Association was harmless. They'd wave during their little walkthroughs, and occasionally send newsletters about landscaping tips or community events. But then a new face showed up, Pamela. Folks quickly nicknamed her Karen Pamela because of the way she handled herself. She wasn't on the board long before she began rewriting rules, sending notices, and flexing her position over every neighbor she could. One Saturday afternoon, I was repairing the deck railing when Pamela strutted up the path in her oversized sunglasses, clipboard clutched tight. "Mr. Jenkins," she said, clearing her throat like she was about to announce a royal decree. "This cabin doesn't meet our updated HOA building codes." I looked at her, then at my cabin. "What exactly doesn't meet the code?" I asked. Pamela smirked. "For starters, the porch is an illegal extension. And from what I've seen in your windows, your wiring isn't compliant either. I'll be filing an official notice." I set my hammer down slowly. "That's quite an accusation. What makes you think you're qualified to judge my wiring from outside the house?" She bristled. "As a board member, it's my responsibility to uphold standards. You'll need to submit new inspection paperwork immediately, or face fines." I had half a mind to laugh right then and there, but instead I just said, "We'll see about that." A week later, a thick envelope arrived, official violation notices. Claims of unsafe construction. Threats of fines for every week I didn't comply. Even the possibility of being forced to tear down the porch. My neighbors started whispering too. A few came by, worried. "Hey, Jenkins," my buddy Tom said, leaning over the fence one evening. "I heard Pamela's gunning for you. She's telling folks your place is dangerous." "Dangerous?" I shook my head. "I built it myself, and it passed every inspection. This is harassment, plain and simple." Tom sighed. "Careful, though. She's been bragging about getting other folks fined. Don't let her run you off." For a while, I stayed quiet. I watched Pamela hold her little meetings, saw her strut around acting like she was the law. But inside, I was seething. Then came the final straw. I received a cease and desist letter claiming I had 10 days to vacate the cabin unless I produced an inspection approval from a certified inspector. The letter even implied I might face legal consequences for falsifying construction standards. That's when I knew it was time to turn the tables. I decided to bait her just a little longer. At the next HOA meeting, I showed up early. Pamela spotted me across the room, smug as ever. "Mr. Jenkins," she said loudly so others could hear, "have you brought the proper inspection approval this time?" "Not yet," I said calmly, "but don't worry. I'll have it soon." She leaned closer, voice dripping with arrogance. You'd better. The board is losing patience. I smiled just enough to unsettle her. Funny thing about inspections, Pamela, they don't always end the way people expect. Her eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I just shrugged. You'll see. Walking home that night, I could already picture it, her smug smile fading, her certainty crumbling, when she realized who she'd been threatening. I wasn't just another homeowner bending under HOA pressure. I was the inspector, the one who had approved the cabin in the first place. And I was about to show her just how badly she had overplayed her hand. The very next morning, I got to work. I pulled out my old county inspector badge, my certification papers, and the full record of the permits and approvals I'd filed when I built the cabin. Everything was up to date, signed, and sealed. Pamela wanted proof. She was about to choke on it. But I wasn't just going to drop it in her mailbox. No, that would have been too easy. I wanted her arrogance exposed in front of everyone she'd been bullying. So I called the HOA president, Mr. Lopez. He'd always struck me as a reasonable man, though I could tell Pamela had been swaying him with her endless violations reports. Mr. Lopez, I said, keeping my tone even, I hear there's some confusion about my cabin. I'd like to clear it up at the next board meeting, publicly. There was a pause, then a wary sigh. Well, if you insist. Pamela's been very vocal about this issue. That's exactly why I'd like it discussed, I replied. Transparency is important, don't you think? He agreed. And just like that, the stage was set. When the meeting night came, the room was packed. Neighbors filled the chairs, murmuring about the dangerous cabin Pamela had been warning them about. Pamela herself stood at the front, practically glowing with self-importance. She wasted no time. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, tapping her clipboard, we cannot ignore the blatant code violations of Mr. Jenkins' cabin. Unsafe wiring, illegal porch extension, uninspected modifications. For the good of the community, he must comply or face consequences. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some folks looked at me with pity, others with suspicion. Pamela had worked them up well. Do you have anything to say for yourself, Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Lopez asked. I stood slowly, letting the silence stretch a beat longer than necessary. Then I pulled a folder from under my arm and set it on the table with a firm thud. Yes, I said. Plenty. Pamela crossed her arms. Unless that's a demolition order, we're wasting our time. I opened the folder, spread the documents across the table, and turned to the crowd. Every single permit, every inspection record, every code compliance certificate, signed, sealed, and filed with the county. The room hushed. And before you ask, I added, locking eyes with Pamela, yes, I know they're legitimate. Because I'm the inspector who approved this cabin. Gasps erupted. People craned their necks to see the papers. Mr. Lopez leaned forward, his eyes widening as he read the official county seals. Pamela's smug smile faltered. That can't be right, she stammered. You can't inspect your own property. Actually, I said calmly, pulling out a copy of the county policy, I can, provided I file through the proper channels and undergo peer review. Which I did. Here are the signatures from the Oversight Committee. I pointed to the signatures, 3 of them, in bold ink. Pamela's face went red. Well, maybe standards have changed since then. Maybe your porch isn't compliant with the new rules. Funny you mention that. I pulled out one last document, the most recent HOA guidelines. Your so-called new rules were filed after my cabin was built. Legally, my property is grandfathered in. And if you'd bothered to check the bylaws, you'd know that. The crowd erupted into murmurs again, this time not against me, but against her. One neighbor stood up. "Pamela, you've been harassing him for weeks over nothing." Another added, "Yeah, and she fined me last month for having the wrong color mailbox." I bet that wasn't valid either. Mr. Lopez cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. "Pamela, it seems you've overstepped." Pamela's composure cracked. "This is absurd. He's just twisting things." Pamela," I interrupted, my voice calm but sharp, "you accused me of falsifying inspections. That's not just arrogance, it's slander. I could take this to court." Her eyes widened. "Court? You wouldn't," I leaned in slightly. "Try me." She froze. For the first time, she realized she wasn't the predator here, she was the prey. By the end of the meeting, the board voted to rescind all my violation notices and issue a formal apology. But the fallout didn't stop there. Word spread fast through the neighborhood about Pamela's power trip. People started questioning every fine, every demand she'd made. Within a month, she was voted off the board entirely. One evening, as I sat on my porch sipping coffee, Tom strolled over with a grin. "Well, Jenkins," he said, "you sure put her in her place. Didn't know you had that ace up your sleeve." I chuckled. "Sometimes it pays to let people underestimate you." He shook his head. "I'll tell you what, you reminded all of us tonight, bullies only win if you let them." Pamela avoided me after that. I'd see her speed walking past my cabin, sunglasses on, lips pressed tight. She never said a word. The cabin still stood, safe, strong, and legal. And she could no longer touch it. As I watched the sun dip over the lake, I felt a quiet satisfaction. Not just because I'd won, but because justice had been served in the best way possible, with truth, dignity, and a touch of irony. And that's the thing about people like Pamela, they think rules exist only to control others. But rules, when applied fairly, protect us all. So the next time someone tries to bully you with false authority, remember this: truth has a way of shining through, and when it does, the bullies always burn themselves.